But you're still here. There are people who are watching this show who are concerned about the fact that, I mean, what they're earning is not even enough to take care of themselves, not to talk of their families. I went to the Wages Commission, the National Income and Wages Commission website, and the last report that's there about the wage structure in the public sector is 2009. And in that report, now there may have been some increases between then and now. Let's use the police, for instance. The least police officer at level 1, entry point, earns about 5,000 naira a month.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
So, is it possible that some of these things can be looked at critically? And yet you're saying that minimum wage should not be increased, because if minimum wage is increased, it will go round, at least the public sector would all be looked at. How can you expect that a family man will be earning, who just joined?
Yeah.
Now that's assuming that I'm going by the 2009 report, yes. Just assuming that it's at that stage it's not been increased. What do you expect?
Now let me just give you my thought on that very simply. You do not throw money at every problem. He had made a very valid point to say, let's look at the structural needs of our system. We need to look at, you just raised a very germane point, which is very challenging now, that the entry point for a policeman is 5,000. That is dehumaning, if you want to ask me. Now, but I think what we need to do is look at the structure. You know, there are several structure components. The public servants have a different component. The civil service servants have a different component. Then all the other ones, like the government-owned enterprises, have their own different. So that was what we need to look at.
Just hold your thoughts. Don't lose your train of thought. Because we're looking at the human side of this whole budget funding and also.
Yes, you see, the point I was trying to make before we had that, was that you do not just throw money at every problem. You look at the structure first. As it is now, the police are not on the minimum wage, going by what you just, the information you just brought to us.
No, this is based on please note, it's based on the 2009 report.
2009 report.
We've not seen any other report yet.
Even at that time.
Even at that, 2009, 5,000 minimum wage.
That's ridiculous. So, but the point I'm trying to make is this. We need to sit down and ensure that the difference, the variation we have in all the wages component is resolved, is addressed. When that is addressed, then we now talk about how do we now add. Because the issue is this. If you do not set the structure in place, you keep throwing money at it, at what point does it become enough? At what point does the wage become satisfactory for a man to take care of himself? So we must look at the structure. When we have set the structure in place, other things falls in line. Then more importantly, we must understand that until, which is the point I keep making, until we look inwardly, we will not be able to get this issue correctly. Let us, because if you pay a worker his wage, for example, what does it do with the wage? It pays house rent, transportation, then feeding, clothing, and all that. If all of those are within what we call a controllable width, you control the transportation, the rent, the clothing, the feeding, and all of that, and all of those to make the life of that person comfortable, it becomes relatively easy. But all of those components are within our uncontrollable bandwidth. For example, in Nigeria we still import rice. Basic staple food.
No, we understand that has dropped. That has dropped.
I'm trying. Yes, it has dropped. But you look at it, that is just an example. Clothing, basically, we still import. A lot of things that even the fuel on which we run.
When you say we still
no, my point is, by the time we get those things.
Is it a question of the cravings, personal cravings of Nigerians, or is it general thing?
The cravings, the yearnings to, dress.
Status.
Yes, status. It's one thing. But you must understand, everything rises and falls on leadership. If the leadership of this country is to come by set a timeline. So by so time, dress Nigerian, dress native, or dress horse, so to speak. Come up with a beautiful brand, come up with a beautiful project and policy, and let everybody queue behind it. In a question of time, you will even feel inferior to begin to wear imported clothes. You want to dress native, and they must set the standard. You understand? But we are not seeing that. So when the man gets his 18,000 minimum wage, he's craving to go buy an expensive, shirt because he wants to look, good. Those are the challenges. We are still heavily dependent on imports. If we get our local industry and commerce really on its footing, we wouldn't have so much challenges.
And also, and also
as a wind down.
Yeah.
Winding down.
Okay, look. We have a committee that has been set up to look into the national minimum wage. My question is this: you're not coming out to tell the public what your findings are. There are merits and demerits of minimum wage. Now, there's one thing for some people from quarters like the workforce to say we want increments in our wages. Okay? Now, it's left for the government to say, okay, even if we have the money to pay you, these are the implications. Going by what my colleague just said in here, if all that we depend on are all majority are on importation, okay, the value of the money that we spend is not commensurate with what we earn. How does it work out? So basically, what we're trying to say now is, let's come back to the round table. Sit on the round table and say, look, if you earn ABC, these are the implications. What we're trying to do, we're addressing the economy, okay, to ensure that there's going to be strong value for our money, okay? In the UK, for example, £1, you can't go to someone and say, sorry, can I have £1, please? It's difficult for someone to give you £1 because of the value, the strength of that £1, the purchasing power of that £1. Here, we don't even, you can't buy anything.
£1.
With what is £1? Even £5, you can't buy anything.
No, £1 is equivalent to at least 500 naira. So what can you buy with 500 naira in Nigeria?
Hang on. The economy is so stabilized and standardized, right? The reason why we have this fluctuation in exchange rate is because it's the strength of an economy, right? If we have a good economy, we should be ranking very close to the pound as well.
Okay.
Not the way it is now. So obviously, minimum wage is good, but let's look at the implication before we begin to...
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We're speaking with Michael Adele, economist and human development expert, and Ladi Ifashua, an economist and accountant. Thank you both for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away.